Welcome to today's Solution Series webinar, Using AI Responsibly, 3 Compelling Use Cases for Your Law Firm. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, AllRize, the most complete, intelligent, and flexible law practice management solution available, period. I'd also like to welcome Lauren Round. Lauren is the Director of Legal Solutions Marketing at AllRize. Lauren is an attorney with a technical background whose career spans over a decade in both government and private sectors. Today, she helps guide the legal marketing strategy for AllRize. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Eric Ruda as well. Eric is the CEO of AllRize. Eric is a distinguished tech executive with over 2 decades of software and IT consulting background. He founded Rise Technologies in 2020, showcasing his entrepreneurial spirit and drive for innovation. Welcome, Lauren and Eric. We look forward to hearing all about what you have to share with us today. Lauren, you can go ahead and take it from here.
All right, give me just a moment. All right, Joy, everything looking good on your end?
It's great.
Everybody? Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for our presentation today. As Joy said, I'm Lauren Round, the Director of Legal Solutions Marketing at AllRize, and I'm joined by AllRize founder Eric Ruda. We have lots of fun content and, more importantly, practical content to get to today. But before we do, I'm going to briefly turn it over to Eric to talk to us a little bit more about AllRize.
Thanks, Lauren. AllRize is an end-to-end law practice management software built on Microsoft 365 and Dynamics 365, which is Microsoft's flagship business application and CRM. It can be deployed as an entire solution or one module at a time, and it also easily integrates with all of your existing tools that you're currently using. Most importantly for this presentation, AllRize is built on Microsoft Copilot, which also enables firms to deploy and leverage AI responsibly.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. So on today's agenda, we are going to start by just setting the stage a little bit, how AI is changing law firms, and then we're going to dive into 3 practical use cases that everyone here should be able to use at their firm today and into the future. The first is tactical, how you can put AI to work for you when it comes to document sorting. The second is strategic, how AI can help you be smarter and more efficient with your client intake process. And the third is visionary, looking ahead of sort of just this moment in time in AI and talking about how AI can help you grow in the long term. So again, starting by setting the stage before getting into our use cases. Everyone here has probably heard a lot about AI in the past year or 2, and in that you've probably heard some resistance from legal professionals. As we all know, the legal industry isn't exactly one that raises its hand immediately when a new technology becomes available. We went through this kind of with the internet, with mobile, with cloud storage, all of those things. The legal industry tends to lag behind a little bit, and we've seen some resistance in the past. I myself am a recovering lawyer of just a few years, and places that I worked just a few years ago didn't allow employees to bring laptops home until COVID forced them to. Plenty of law firms are still managing documents largely on paper. So you get it. But despite all that, the legal industry really is one of the most impacted industries by advancement in AI, whether we like it or not. We have a lot of CEOs today, already reporting that their legal departments are shrinking. There's really a lot of pressure on the billable hour model, and we've seen law schools reacting to this too. Some are starting to implement and require AI training for their current students. So all of that is to say, all signals point to the fact that AI is here to stay. And more than that, a lot of legal technologists are predicting that AI isn't just here to stay, but it's actually going to create an entirely new landscape in a few years. So, where are we today and why is that relevant to you? A lot of you here are probably already using AI in some way. Surveys say that 80+% of legal professionals are using it in some way, and that's even higher for certain areas like in house counsel. But the question isn't really if legal professionals are using AI, it's if they're doing so in a responsible way. So, with that, Eric, if you can move on by telling us a few ways that legal professionals can structure their AI use in a responsible way.
Sure. So, really what you want to do is begin by creating some type of policies, use policies within your firm, to understand what's allowed, and best practices. And we deal with firms all over the world, actually, mostly in the US, but um, we're seeing a different level of adoption. Some are currently coming on and saying, okay, the policy is we don't do anything with AI. And then we have other people that are excited about it and are trying to kind of push the limits, and being at the forefront of the innovation there. Um, and I think it all starts with creating policies and communicating them within the organization to make sure that everybody knows what can and can't be done. Then and which ways they're allowed to use it in the firm. Next, you can integrate AI to support a lot of internal workflows and processes. Sure that everyone's heard how AI is now going to automate a lot of things. You don't have to start by automating everything, but I would say start slowly. You want to make sure that you're using an AI engine or model like Microsoft Copilot that does have the correct or sufficient security measures in place. And then, like I mentioned before, I think go slow, starting with specific use cases, trying to get some value out of those, and then continuing to build from there and sharing your experiences among the firm along the way.
And so, with that, it is time for our first poll. Is your law firm using AI today, and to what extent? So, yes, for many tasks throughout the firm, think of things like lots of folks are using it for significant tasks like maybe writing the first draft of legal documents or issue spotting, sorting resumes, that sort of thing. Yes, for small tasks only. So maybe things like helping you write an email or making suggestions as you're working. Not sure, or don't use AI at all. So we'll give you about a minute to take that poll and then we will report back with the results.
You should see the result on the screen.
Is everyone seeing the results?
I can see.
Yes.
Okay. Eric, do you want to chime in? Because I cannot see the results.
It looks like yes for small tasks only is the highest percentage. Let's see. So
29% is yes for small tasks only. 11% said yes for many tasks. 9% are saying not sure. And 14% said we do not use AI.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate you assisting us with that. Okay, so it sounds like the vast majority of you are already familiar with using AI in some way. So our next use cases should be a very logical jump for you. And those that are not sure or are not using AI, the tasks that we're going to talk about are still very relevant for you, and they might be a good entry point for your firm to start adopting some of these technologies. So with that, I will move to our first tactical use case, and that is document sorting. So anyone who has received a document dump knows what a drag it is. We wish that every client or every opposing counsel was really organized and nice and handed everything over, labeled properly and in order, but that is just not reality. And even if you're lucky enough to have all of the files digitally, usually they're not labeled all correctly. There might be mislabeled duplicates, things missing, etc. And we all know it can take hours and hours to sort of even start to make sense of what you have, to digitize everything to find what you need. So the good news is there is absolutely no reason that any of that has to be manual. Today, you can deploy AI tools to do all this manual work for you. And Eric is going to show us what this might look like in practice.
Okay, so here you can see in the top, this is a document management solution within AllRize. And at the top here, you can see that each document in this particular library is tagged with a document type. So in the past, like Lauren was describing, you might get this big file dump, but have to manually go through all of it. And before there may have been some tools to make it a little bit easier, but now we're in a world where the systems are starting to understand what's in your documents and understand your documents. So if you upload a document and it's an intake form, it's going to recognize, oh, this is an intake form, and going to automatically spec it as an intake form or a letter or a retainer agreement, those kinds of things. So as you're uploading documents just into the system, it's automatically tagging those and organizing it for you. And then on the bottom, you can also see, a lot of firms still like to use folder structures. And now there's a lot of, tagging and things going on like in the above view, but the below view is also supporting folder structures. So it can also take those documents and organize them and sort them in the appropriate folder as well.
Okay, so in just a moment, we're going to talk about how to implement document sorting using AI in a responsible way. But first, we're going to get to our second poll. Does your law firm have an AI use policy? So yes, two options for yes. It specifies how you can use it, or it says that you can't use it. No or not sure. So again, we'll give everyone just a minute to take that poll.
Closing the poll and applying the results now. So the number one answer was 27% said no. Next was 16% as yes, it specifies how we can use AI. And then 8% said not sure. And last was 5% with yes, we are not allowed to use AI.
Okay, thank you, Joy. Yeah, and that's pretty typical of what we see in the industry. AI use policies are more rare than they probably should be. We do eventually want to get everyone up to option A. Yes, we have an AI policy and it specifies how we can use AI, but 16% is not bad. So it sounds like we're getting there. So let's talk a little bit about the ethical considerations when it comes to document sorting. If that might seem like a very straightforward task, what do we have to worry about? One of the main things that we wanted to flag is prompts. So in the use case that Eric just demoed, you may use a prompt to find the documents that you were looking for. Type in find me XYZ that says XYZ. These prompts may or may not go away. So there is some ongoing discussion about whether these prompts, for example, might be discoverable later in litigation. And this is, of course, very relevant in the Gen AI context too, where your prompts are more likely to be longer and reveal more information about kind of your thought process than it is here. But either way, your firm really should have a prompt policy in place. And some firms are even creating things called prompt libraries just to really control what is going into the tools and avoid any surprises later on. A couple of ethical duties that lawyers are bound by that are applicable in this case, starting with the duty to provide competent representation. That here translates to always double checking. So if you're using AI for document sorting, comparing documents, etc., that's great. But if somehow you miss a key document, that's obviously going to be a problem down the road. So you want to make sure you have some sort of a checks and balances process in place so that that doesn't happen. And then also the duty to supervise, letting staff loose with these tools without any insider oversight is probably not meeting the standard of a duty to supervise. So attorneys need to make sure that they're on the same page with the staff and they know what's going on when you're using these tools. This is obviously not an exhaustive list. There are lots of different ethical considerations that you want to take into account when you're deploying these tools, but this is just kind of a preview. Back to what we said earlier, the easiest way to avoid these issues is to have policies in place that act as kind of a safety net if in case anything goes wrong later on. Moving on to our second use case, which is strategic, and we're talking about client intake, particularly lead sorting. Obviously, client intake and lead sorting, super important part of running a law firm. Those of you who have been in the industry for a while know that to even have a stream of incoming leads usually takes years of work and great marketing. So it's super important to have good staff and processes in place to vet and to track these leads. And today, a lot of firms, not all, but a lot of firms just get a sort of static list each morning of incoming leads. They're sorted by when they came in, and that's it. And that's fine. But the problem with that is, one, it requires a lot of manual work, as a lot of you know, for whoever is managing the intake process to vet each one, determine which ones are spam, which ones are high quality, low quality. And in an ideal world, you want to cut down that time so that you can be as responsive as possible to the high quality leads and don't want to spend, too much time on low quality leads or spam. So that is where AI comes in and can help you automate a lot of this process and tell you which leads you should prioritize. So I'll turn it over to Eric to what that might look like in real life.
Thank you, Lauren. So here we're seeing a list of leads in AllRize, and it's already sorted, as you can see. So going to Lauren's point, a lot of firms, firms, marketing is a huge expense for most firms, right? It's one of the highest expenses. And leads are very expensive. I've seen, firms pay thousands of dollars for one lead. And for one case, and ultimately, to Lauren's point earlier, leads are coming in, and you want to make sure that you're focusing on the ones that are going to have the most likelihood to close and to have a positive outcome. And what this allows you to do is it's going to give you a predictive score based on data that's being collected as part of the intake process. So you can see in the bottom right there, so if the date of incident was more than 6 months ago, or less than 6 months ago, then it's gets a higher grade. If it's a relevant practice area, if it's coming from a referral, it's more likely that it's they're gonna go with the firm. Those types of things, and looking at statute of limitations. So looking at all the data points that we have, it's going to be able to allow you to make sure you're focusing on the most important leads, and then also continuing to follow up and personalize that follow up. Now, what do I mean by that? Um, Now, if you're just using a spreadsheet, it's not that easy to track unless you have a CRM like this to track how many times you're following up. Are you following up on the same cadence? And having a lead slip through the cracks that potentially cost thousands of dollars to get, obviously is not something that any firm wants to do. And this will help you to prevent this will help prevent you from things getting lost through the cracks.
Okay, so what are some responsible AI considerations that go along with this use case, starting with who has access to this client information? Anyone who has been involved in reviewing intake forms knows that there's a huge spectrum in intake forms. Some leads tell you absolutely nothing. Some leads tell you their entire life story and include really highly confidential information that should not even be in an intake form. So because of that case, you need to know who has access to this information, especially if you're using an AI tool. You need to know where that client information is stored and how and when it is deleted. You also need to think about who is treated as a prospective client and how they are treated. So the ABA and most state bars have rules about a lawyer's duty to prospective clients. So something that might come up is if your AI tool filters out a prospective client and it turns out later that you're representing a client on the other side of that same matter, that could be a problem. This is a little bit of a gray area today because if the system filtered out a lead form and a lawyer actually didn't even read it, it just got automatically filtered out, can you really say that the lawyer learned information about that prospective client? We don't know. That hasn't been litigated yet, but we don't want to find out when we're in front of the ethics board. So it's better to be safe than sorry and have processes in place to make sure that these types of things don't fall through the cracks. And with that, it is time for our third poll before we get to our final use case. Does your firm engage in long-term planning to grow the business? Two options for yes, no, and not sure. So again, we'll give you 1 minute to take the poll.
I'm sharing the results now. Looks like the highest amount was 39% at yes at regular intervals. Then next was yes occasionally at 8%, and both no and not sure rang in at 5% each.
Okay, great. So the vast majority of you regularly engage in some sort of business planning. That's great. So this use case will be particularly relevant to you, but this is relevant to anyone who's in the business of running a law firm as well. Our last use case, which is visionary, that's business analysis. So when I say visionary, think 5, 10 years down the road when we are way beyond the tactical and strategic use cases that I just went over. Some of this is, of course, theoretical and kind of crystal ball guessing because AI is advancing so quickly that it's really hard to know what is going to be possible 5, 10 years down the road. But the thought is that AI will be able to help us with very complex things like training new attorneys, interviewing prospects, etc. So how might that apply in business analysis? Well, today, most, not all firms, but most, as we saw in the poll, have some sort of way to track performance tools. So at a minimum, you have a P&L, you have a report with the top case types, etc. But a lot of firms are not using these to their fullest capability. And even if they are, it can be hard to kind of look at a report and make sense of it, let alone take action based on the information. So AI can really take that business analysis to the next level and act as almost a personal business consultant to help you kind of determine where the gaps are, things like what your competitors are doing to capture leads that you're not, how you can optimize staff, control overhead, things like that. So again, very, very advanced to helping you make sense of this data, these reports that you get every month. So Eric is going to show us what that might look like in practice.
So if we kind of take a step back and think about the other use cases that we talked about, tactical is more about doing things that you're doing today, but doing it faster and being more efficient is the way that we're kind of looking at that at the tactical use case. The strategic is coming in. It makes you smarter than you would before, right? Making you it's giving you information, prescriptive information on forecasting the quality of leads, things like that. This last use case is really about, I think, a visionary. It's really about big picture. So if you look at so you can go into your system and just say, help me build a sales report summarizing our key metrics and trends. Now, what are the key metrics and trends, right? Your system, the AI and Copilot should understand your business and will learn what key metrics and trends are important for your firm. So that's where it's really getting into even more that visionary of saying, okay, well, what should we be tracking and why? And it's taking all of your data and it's going to, so for example, here you say, help me build a sales report. So it's going to, on the right, it'll automatically come and build you a beautiful report using your data and showing all of your sales or intake activity. Now, let's go to the next slide, Lauren. This is a little small, but then so then you get that overview. Then you're taking you can take it a step further, right? And using AI, especially in these more strategic, big picture use cases, it's really about continuing to iterate and ask more questions, right? So here, create a sales dashboard with a specific factors of sales, and then now you're saying, okay, you can take it a step further by asking what are the biggest drivers for a close percentage. So for example, the first one on the top says was there a callback within 3 hours? So if there's a callback within 3 hours, the likelihood, the impact of that is going to be very high on your ability to close. And there's another one. Can you read the one on the bottom, Lauren? I can't see it.
There's campaign type is phone, or campaign type is phone is the bottom one.
So that's another good example. So you can actually ask your systems, where are the most leads coming from? Where are the leads that are resulting in the best outcome? Where are they coming from? So you can really plan and be strategic about how you organize and run your firm. So hopefully those that do participate and engage in business planning, this is going to really be a game changer.
So as always, let's talk about some of the responsible considerations in this business analysis use case. So first is bias. Think of things like if a tool is steering a firm to target a particular demographic or deprioritize another demographic, that can be problematic and sometimes be a gray area. This can also come into play with hiring decisions. So if you're using a tool to help scale your workforce, for example, you want to make sure that the information is as objective as possible. And again, this just comes down to having checks and balances in place and just be aware of these potential shortcomings. If you're seeing some weird patterns and you think it's unusual, there's a good chance that it probably is. So again, just making sure you're always aware of those things. And then second is hallucinations. Most of you probably heard about hallucinations in the press. Unfortunately, this has come up in actual legal filings, but a hallucination is simply when AI gives you an incorrect result or very misleading results. And that's just a function of AI is not yet perfect. And even in this case, we're talking about visionary 5, 10 years from now. We don't know if it's going to be perfect at that point. We've all heard the horror stories about attorneys that have been sanctioned for submitting briefs with made up cases. That was a case in point of AI hallucinations, and that applies to other use cases too, not just in the Gen AI context. So again, just be aware of these and use your judgment if something seems off. So we are going to get to questions in just a moment, but to wrap up, keeping it very simple, if you take anything away from this session, it should be one, AI here to stay, it's not going away. Two, you need to have responsible use policies in place. If you were one of those that took the poll that said you don't have any policies in place or you're not sure, take that back to your firm. You need to have policies in place. If you don't have them, your firm is at risk. And three, AllRize can help you implement all of these use cases that we talked about today and a lot more in a responsible way. So with that, I am going to go to our chat box and start taking a couple of questions. Anyone has any questions, put them in the chat box and we will get to them.
And Lauren, we do have a few questions that came in previously. Would you like me to read those?
I am reading them right now. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get to the beginning. Okay, I think this is a good one for Eric. Does your intake tool have any AI marketing features that would also help us generate new leads, not just qualify them?
Yeah, so there is a marketing module. On top of AllRize, there's a marketing module, a CRM, which includes intake, matter management, document management, and accounting. And for the marketing module, you have the ability to do email campaigns. You have the ability to do automated marketing campaigns, landing pages, social media tracking, and then all of that information that is produced based on all of that marketing is automatically entered into AllRize to be worked on. And that was a screen you saw before with all the leads coming in. So that's where all the leads end up, whether they're filling out forms on your website, on your social media, anywhere, all gets tracked into one place. Hopefully that answers the question.
And there were also a couple of questions in here for folks curious about AI policies and kind of templates to use. I'm not aware of any like standard ABA AI policy template that is sort of a model for all law firms. But Eric, is that something that we could help with when we're implementing a tool, making sure that as we're implementing a module that there's a kind of in conjunction an AI policy that goes along with it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can provide an AA policy. And I think it was Janice who reached out. You can reach out to either one of us, and I could also give you a template that you could start out with.
Okay. And another question, I have various legal specific software tools I already use, but they are not AI powered. How would AllRize work with them? Eric, do you want to take that one?
Okay. Yeah, so I guess you could say that they're not AI powered. Most of the time now, I think as we move forward, most cloud solutions are going to have some type of AI capability. We do run into a lot of the older platforms, things that are like on premise, and people who haven't really embraced the cloud fully may struggle uh, 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 with AI with those tools, because AI is kind of right now really being implemented in the cloud. But AllRize allows you to plug into whatever systems you currently have, pull that data in, and leverage the AI from there. So, even if you are using tools that are not AI powered, by getting some solutions that are, make sure that you're getting the solutions that can allow you to take advantage of AI, even in the tools, in the data with the tools that don't use it.
There was another related question about Copilot. Can Copilot perform automatic organization of documents without the use of AllRize running in the background? So, Eric, this might be a good chance to kind of further explain how AllRize is built on top of Microsoft. So, if they're already using Copilot, it's a very sort of organic implementation and adoption process.
Um, so Copilot, real AllRize is an end-to-end solution that has document management, that organizes all of your matters in one place, and really gathering all your data in one place to give you a 360 kind of degree view of the firm, right? Of how much marketing is being spent, where it's being spent, how much is the actual cost of acquisition of a new client, um, those types of things. So Copilot does have the ability to organize and sort through your documents. But it would take like an implementation to do it, to make it do it that way. And AllRize, it automatically does it, where we can always we work with some people that don't use AllRize but want Copilot, and then it would just be a different type of an engagement of understanding how Copilot can work. But the benefit of using AllRize is that it's all already there for you and already set up properly.
And then the last question I'm seeing in the chat, if anyone has others, please put them in. Over the past 11 years, we've accumulated a ton of documents related to various matters and cases. Can AI help analyze, organize, and prioritize all those files in case we need to refer back to them?
The answer to that is yes. I think it's pretty simple. You can definitely do that. There's also one other question that I wanted to answer. Somebody had asked something about the like emails coming in and sorting Okay, so what I here it says, so it would pull an attachment to an email and categorize the material in the attachment. Yes, that's possible. So whether it's coming in through an email or you're uploading it from your machine, the bottom line is it doesn't really matter where it comes from. So like if you think about it in the market example that I used before, leads could be coming from the website, it could be coming from social media, it could be coming from other places. It's the same thing with documents, right? It could be coming from anywhere, but the system itself behind the scenes on the back end learns your documents and your formats of your documents, so it can automatically categorize them, whether it's from an attachment or something you're uploading locally, or somebody sending you a link to download documents from their document management system.
All right. I don't see any unanswered questions in the chat. Joy, thank you for putting our LinkedIn and email information there. As Eric said, for questions about anything, we're always available. So that's a great way to get in touch with us.
Great. Well, I'll turn it to the two of you for any final closing remarks before we close out.
Thank you everyone again for joining and for your questions. And as I said, we're here if any questions come up after the fact. We're always available and would love the opportunity to talk to you about implementing some of these solutions at your firm.
Thanks, everyone.